Welcome to Comments Podcast, the show where we discuss a variety of topics with your host, Nina. The media images being projected across the world of the terrible increase of COVID-19 cases in India and subsequent rising death toll supports a case for governments wanting as many people as possible to be vaccinated against COVID. The huge number of cases of coronavirus and deaths is a reminder to everyone that there is no escape from the pandemic until populations of all nations are vaccinated. Cases of the Indian mutant COVID has been identified in a couple of countries already, but the numbers seem to be extremely small, and governments, at least in the UK, have managed so far to contain its spread. The vaccination rollout programme has been a success in many countries, from Israel, New Zealand, UK, USA, and Europe, to mention a few. However, it is difficult to disguise the fact all these are wealthier nations, and middle to lower income countries are still lagging far behind. Yet through the Gavi COVAX schemes, the vaccination rollout should begin in earnest soon, particularly in developing countries where the need is so great to ensure infection rates from COVID continue to remain low. The lack of internal health infrastructure compounds problems if cases were to increase. These countries are extremely vulnerable to being unable to deal with the surge of COVID-19 infections, and lockdowns would only serve to cripple their already fragile economies. The only solution seems to be a vast vaccination rollout programme as soon as possible in developing countries. In the UK, where the vaccination programme has been successful, we've seen an increased uptake, especially from ethnic communities. The next step is for governments to consider additional ways for people to prove they have received the vaccination jab or prove they are COVID-free through usage of a lateral flow test. This is essential as to properly open up venues with large numbers of people attending events, for example, football stadiums, conferences, music festivals. At least for the foreseeable near future, a system needs to be in place to ensure there is a lower risk of getting or transmitting coronavirus, and additional adequate measures are required to protect the public's health at large gatherings and just restore confidence for businesses. In the UK and other countries, as in the European Union, a digital certificate is being considered as a viable option. In the UK, the existing NHS or National Health Service Act could be used to prove that a person has received the vaccine or had a negative COVID test. It would be easy to download on any mobile phone the NHS app or one similar in other countries, and it would allow automatic entry to visitors to clubs, stadiums. This would ensure that these large venues are COVID secure and could also open up indoor theatres where ventilation has always been a problem to admit large numbers of people. Hopefully, governments can agree and soon make an announcement that these digital passports or digital certificates or digital apps will be available shortly to allow a degree of normality back into many people's lives. More importantly, such passports or certificates would be a lifesaver for many businesses and help economies recover quicker. It is one method, perhaps not totally foolproof, but an important step towards improving the safety of visitors to many places which have been forced to remain closed during the pandemic. As measures of lockdown ease gradually, many people will be looking forward to resume their summer holidays and start booking their next break. Many of their plans have remained on hold for the past 12 months. It is inevitable some form of COVID digital certificate passport however you wish to define it, will be required for international travel and for entry into many countries. Some people will argue the pros and cons of digital COVID passports for certificates regarding its privacy and ethical issues, highlighting the possibility of discriminating against those who have not been vaccinated. However, there is no real alternative at this particular stage until the coronavirus is fully under control globally. We have all had to endure restrictions and severe lack of freedom of movement during the last 12 months of this pandemic. As restrictions are gradually reduced, safety measures simultaneously need to be introduced, and one means of doing this is through issuing COVID digital certificates or requiring proof of a negative test. Inevitably, anti-vaxxers, those who refuse to take the vaccine jab due to a number of personal reasons, will inevitably face difficulties as a result, for example, to travel abroad. At least for the foreseeable future, countries seem to want to permit entry only to those travellers who can prove that they have had a vaccination, and many airlines too are requesting this proof in order to board their flights. Holiday companies, airlines, as well as national governments will be requiring travellers to prove they are vaccinated, and this information will be presented via a digital vaccine passport, certificate or app, once they've decided, of course, and should allow holidaymakers to travel freely shortly. The harrowing images of India suffering from its sudden second wave of coronavirus has strengthened the argument to deploy vaccines as rapidly as possible in developing countries. Viewing images of deaths by the roadside in India as their hospitals struggle to deal with the sheer numbers has revealed that this virus is still running rampant. We're all beginning to realize that no country is safe until all nations' populations are vaccinated globally. That's to say, everyone, everywhere. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. You can subscribe to the Comments podcast via iTunes, Spotify, and other major podcast providers.